So have you read the newest Trump indictment? If you haven't read it, you need to go read it because somebody is not telling the truth. By the way, this is my backup account for those of you guys who are still trying to figure out what I'm doing on this one. My 2.0 account has still got an account warning. So we're going to be pushing out a lot of content from my 3.0 account. So please make sure you follow this new account and do me a favor. Help me to share and repost this particular video. This has to get out. So as many of us found out yesterday, and I did a quick video on this, Jack Smith filed a new superseding indictment against Donald Trump, basically limiting the scope of the prior indictment that he filed back in August of 2023. Why? Because the Supreme Court smacked his little rear end and told him half of what he was indicting Trump for, he couldn't do it. So he went back to the well, and he filed a new one. But what's really interesting is there's some stuff in this indictment, and I haven't been through the entire thing yet, but it only took me to page 5 to find some things that just don't make sense. Like, for example, in the means and methods section, Jack Smith talks about the things that he's accusing Donald Trump of doing, and you'll see the highlighted section where he says some fraudulent electors were tricked into participating based on an understanding that their votes would be used only if the defendant succeeded in outcome determinative lawsuits within their state, which the defendant never did. And then I highlighted the next section in blue because this is incredibly important. The defendant and co-conspirators then caused the fraudulent electors to transmit their false certificates to the vice president in his capacity as the president of the Senate and other government officials to be counted at the certification proceedings on January 6th. He's outlining what they call the fake elector scheme. But the question is, did that actually happen? Because Mike Pence has been pretty clear about this. And in fact, Mike Pence gave an interview to NBC News to Chuck Todd on August 13th, 2023. And I want you to listen to what Mike Pence said about that scheme.
Because earlier this month you told a colleague of mine here that you didn't know a lot about the efforts to secure fake electors until after the fact. But it was interesting in your book, you brought up the fake slate of electors in a meeting with the Senate parliamentarian on January 3rd. In your book, you said this. I asked her a direct question referring to the Senate parliamentarian. Are there any alternate electors from any state? She told me there were not. I mentioned that I had heard that some alternate electors had been sent from several of the disputed states. So this was on January 3rd. What can you tell us about what you knew about this elector scheme on January 3rd that prompted you to ask this question?
I just heard what was being talked about in the press at the time, Chuck, but I thought it was important.
Did you catch that? When Chuck Todd asked him what he knew about this fake elector scheme, and he sat down and talked to the parliamentarian, Mike Pence says that he only heard about it from the media. But he goes on.
I wanted to make sure that we were operating on January 6th in a way that was consistent with the Constitution, consistent with the laws of the country, and that's the reason that I sat down with the parliamentarian. I looked through the process. I did ask the parliamentarian very directly, Chuck. I asked her because I was hearing rumors. I was reading in the newspaper that there were alternate electors. I asked her point blank.
Was anybody in the White House telling you this?
From any state? And she said there was not. I don't recall that. I just remember hearing it in the public. And I wanted a definitive answer whether or not the parliamentarian had received any additional electoral votes. She had not.
So wait. A year ago, Mike Pence, when being interviewed by Chuck Todd, said that he had a direct conversation with the Senate parliamentarian who said that they had not received any fraudulent electors. And he said that he only heard about it from the media. And then when asked if anyone in the White House had talked to him about this quote-unquote scheme, he said he didn't recall that. So, wait a minute. So, Jack Smith, why did you put this in your indictment? The defendant and co-conspirators then caused these fraudulent electors to transmit their false certificates to the vice president in his capacity as the president of the Senate and to other government officials to be counted. So, how exactly did Mike Pence a year ago say that he didn't receive any, the Senate parliamentarian didn't receive any, he only learned about this scheme from the media, nobody in the White House told him about it, and yet you put it in your indictment, Jack? You want to explain that? Any explanation?